All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Independent Podcast. I'm here with Henry Martinez II. Henry is a previous candidate for City Council in the city of Chula Vista. He's also a retired military veteran. We've invited him on to listen to his opinion on politics here in the San Diego area. Would love to hear his ideas. But before we get into that, I do want to ask Henry a little bit about his background, where he grew up, and how he got into politics in the first place, how that took place. So, Henry, if you can take that away and tell me a little bit about, where you're originally from and how you got here.
Well, Mr. Fernando Garcia, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. It's an honor to be amongst you and your friends in the audience here at the Independent. So, I'm from El Paso, Texas.
Oh, wow.
I joined the Navy in 1986, did 32 years. I come from a government subsidized housing, the projects.
Right, yeah.
Single mom, worked at FADA company, 7th grade education level. And it was amazing about that story. We come from the projects, 16 years old, running around working at Whataburger, right. Big things like in and out.
Yeah.
But I see my mom struggling in reference to making the payments, right? So my brother Richard, my brother Philip, and I, 3 young kids, vocational background in Texas. Mm-hmm. In Texas, they do something really, really smart, I would say, try to break the barriers of drug dealing or crime, is by taking an exam at 8th grade to see what aptitude you have. Mm-hmm. Either you go to the vocational route or you go to the traditional education route. Yeah. And so be it, I ended up going to vocational route. I became an electrician.
Oh, nice.
During the time of electrician, I didn't realize that we were doing trade.
Yeah.
So, thinking, I'm not as smart as others, but yet, certain passion of education levels.
Yeah, I mean, electrician is actually, you have to be pretty smart to be an electrician. People don't realize that.
Yes, right.
And now, I don't mean to cut you off, but with everything being electrified, I mean, it's a great career, especially if you can work up to like a master electrician, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what my brother Richard Martinez did.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, and he was responsible for the University of Texas electrical grid.
Nice.
And then he also did contracting inside, but he did obtain his master's license.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. And then my youngest brother, very proud of him. He was got his education. He was the first to get his bachelor's degree, and then was able to go through the Army ROTC program, became a pilot.
Oh, wow.
And now he works for the Border Patrol.
Nice.
And then for me, joined the Navy at 17, boot camp, turned 18 in the Philippines, USS Leahy CG-16, my first amazing ship. I love that ship. Yeah. And then I did 32 years.
Wow.
From E1 to 04, not bad at all.
Right.
I was able to obtain my associate's degree, bachelor's, and my master's through the Navy. Wow. Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah.
It is. Navy did right to me. Yeah. I mean, I love the Navy. If I could stay in, I would have been still in.
Yeah.
I would have had to die before they forced me to get out. But yes, sir.
That's awesome. And then, so when you left the military, how was that? What did you transition into?
From being in the military to the day I was retiring, it was an amazing transition. It was a hard transition to go, especially from a place that give you a foundation of leadership, foundation of structure, right, guidance, and you always had a very certain drumbeat, a pattern of life, right. So then once that changed, I didn't have that show up at 6 o'clock at work and work your 18 hours while at sea or work your 8 hours in port, and try to balance work life and time with the kids and family, but having all this time around you and not working now, like, oh my God, you don't have to worry about working out, you don't have to worry about taking an exam, you don't have to worry about evaluations coming up.
Right.
Like, what do I do?
Yeah. It
was kind of awkward, very, very. I had to go talk to a counselor to adjust to the civilian life.
Yeah.
My wife was laughing, and my kids are welcome to the civilian world. Like it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's a different world.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, a different world.
And now, were your kids kind of brought up while you were in service? So
yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And-
I was very fortunate
Yeah.
to do some sacrifices that no other naval person would have done. Maybe either you pick life or you pick the career wise.
Mhm.
I've learned a lot. My kids, we only moved twice in San Diego, from Lemon Grove
Okay.
to Chula Vista.
Okay. So yeah. not
So
too
they
bad.
grew up in San Diego, Chula
Yeah.
Vista. My daughter went from kindergarten all the way to high school to college in Chula Vista.
Oh wow. Okay.
So she graduated from San Diego State University, got her
Nice.
master's degree.
Awesome. And what are some of the big lessons that? Well, actually, before I get into that, in terms of you and your brothers, were you the oldest? The
I
middle?
was the oldest.
The
I am the oldest.
Okay. Okay.
That was because I haven't died yet.
Now, did you? So I'm assuming that they kind of took your advice or your leadership in terms of you going in the military, and that probably prompted them as well. Would you say that?
I would say yes, but they also kind of like, it was from my younger brother Richard, was kind of disappointed that he felt like I abandoned him,
Ah, okay.
right? For during the scenario in El Paso, Texas.
Yeah.
I'm from Isleta. The Kennedys was the projects, right? So gangs, drugs, crime was right. Either you were a drug dealer or you worked at Whataburger,
Yeah.
or you were police force or border patrol.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the offerings of El Paso, Texas
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot more opportunities now, but I decided to leave
Mhm.
to use the military as a platform to break that cycle
Yeah.
of crime and disparity.
Awesome. What are probably some of your biggest lessons you learned from being in the military?
You work hard.
Yeah.
Work hard. Care about your people. One thing I do take away from the Navy itself, it teaches you how to be structured, disciplined. You don't see color. You don't see race.
Yeah.
You don't see gender in the military,
Right.
but you see the capabilities that one person can bring to the fight.
Yeah.
That's what I take away from the Navy,
Wow.
and I'm very blessed with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, my dad's a Vietnam vet, and he would always say, there was some prejudice during the time he was in the military, but he always said once the bullets started flying, all that went out the window.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Time when hits the fan, your brother next to you
Right,
or your
right.
sister,
Yeah,
come and help me, or
Yeah.
I help thee.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. You mind bringing the microphone a little closer to you? Yeah, awesome.
There you go.
Thank you. And I know that you have a profound love for this country, for the military. One of the things that you had kind of founded or were a part of was the Honor of Veterans Parade. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Honor of Veterans Parade is school was Veterans Elementary. First principal was Dr. Hernandez, which he passed away 5 years ago or so.
Mhm.
He was a great man, great vision. He did not serve, but he wished to have served.
Mhm.
But he had told me, he was Mr. Martinez. I was a lieutenant commander at the time, and he said, Mr. Martinez, Veterans Elementary has to have a meaning. I was like, it's a very powerful name, Veterans Elementary.
Yeah.
And we should do something eventful and meaningful because of the school's name.
Yeah.
So he said, I would like to start a parade.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I would help you.
Yeah.
And by golly, we our first parade, we just showed up into one street. We all gathered our hands, and then all the students and the faculty, we walked together.
Yeah.
And that was our first Honor of Veterans Parade. And
That's-
then the following year, we coordinated with the city, coordinated with active duty service members. And the school was built in 2005, July 19th of 2005.
Okay.
And it's been around for 18 years. The parade has been around 17 years,
Oh, wow.
technically.
You're right.
16 years physically. We did 1 year because of virtual concerns of the COVID-19.
Yeah.
So NCTS San Diego, NavComTel State San Diego is the plank owner.
Okay.
Very proud to announce their name and the love the command, because they've been supporting the Honor of Veterans Parade since day one.
That's awesome.
And the command is located at North Island.
Okay. Yeah, it's so important, being a son of like I said, my father was served in Vietnam. Having that support is so crucial because that was one of the things that they didn't have coming home. Was that support from the community as much as a lot of veterans. Fortunately now a lot of veterans do have that support, which we need to keep it up because if we don't, it can go the other way again.
And if I may add this, so prior moving to Chula Vista, 91913, Otay Ranch area, one thing I did notice prior to the parades is the kids did not know the true meaning of a veteran.
Oh, wow.
Right? So how do we change that in our community?
Yeah.
And oh my God, I am very proud to say that Veterans Elementary, the kids from there, and it's full circle now because the kids are already at, they were part of the first parade, have already graduated in college and having kids.
Oh, wow.
I had many of them turn around and recognize me at when my daughter graduated at San Diego State University. Mr. Martinez.
Yeah.
I love the parade and we honor our veterans. So that was a good, and I cried.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because I got the full back meeting and then a lot of kids that were part of it. It's a never forgetting lifelong dream that they experienced.
That's awesome. So I do want to kind of transition a little bit into some of the issues that are going on. To you, what are probably like the three, and you can add more if you want, but what would you say are the three major issues that concern you, that are kind of hot buttons for you that you feel we need to take care of right away?
Well, I'll tell you one thing on the hot buttons, right? According to the climate of the nation of today, the pulse of the nation, right? So I was scribbling this down on my mind, like, what is the big concerns of my family? Because you think about self first, right?
Right.
But then because it then aggregates to the whole national level. So at the national level, what we're seeing today is two major or various parties, right? Or should I say, the government leadership, senior government leadership at the White House are not willing to work with each other. That is sad to say that we cannot compromise and are able to work with each other to make and continue to get this country going. So the major thing that I was writing down was gun violence. It's the number one thing that hit my head. I'm pro-gun. Right. So I'm pro about Second Amendment. I'm all about owning guns, but the guns do not kill people. The people that use the guns kill people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to make. So you can't see a gun walking around and
right?
Without the human intervention.
Right.
So that's one. All right. The other one is healthcare. So I'm thinking about my kids, thinking about younger generations. The future leaders of America are going to have issues on affording healthcare.
Yeah.
They're going to have issues affording housing, right? Then of course, we have the drug addiction, fentanyl that we're having today, right? So it's a widely viewed area. What I pointed out in reference to, from a personal perspective to a national level, and make sure to give you that wide view of that question you gave me. But the last thing I was saying of all of it is the bottom line that I don't have a problem because I am not a racist, right? But racism is rampant everywhere, which is sad to say. So it's a very problematic area for this nation.
What are your? So you have brought up something, in terms of healthcare. I'll just kind of go off healthcare. What do you think we could do better?
It's hard to say because no matter what you recommend, somebody has to pay. Right. Either the employer and the employee, right, to get educated, get a skill, earn that money to afford. Right. Because if we do a nationwide taxation to provide health care to everybody, I think we do it now with certain parts, uninsured people, right? There's a tax on it. So that's a very touchy subject for everybody. Right now, no one cannot afford additional taxes. I mean, nobody. No more taxes, please. I don't understand for the people, especially here in California, to actually vote for representatives. They want more taxes. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm working to pay for somebody else's life.
Right.
I paid, back in my days with my grandmother and grandfather that I saw working hard to sustain, right? And then you see people from other countries have that same mentality, imported. My mother was born in El Paso, Texas, so my grandparents were the immigrants. So I'm second generation American, Mexican American, Chicano American. I don't know how you want to classify it. I'm going to say I'm American, like I said. Joined the Navy, retired veteran, American. There you go. Well, that's what I'm trying to say. So it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
no, it's it's you had brought up something too that there was a saying in our family for a long time that if our family grew up poor as well. I grew up very middle class up in LA, but my mom grew up in Mexico, and my family did a lot of back and forth. So like some of my family was born in Mexico, some were born here, and then their kids were born over there. So it was a lot of back and forth. But there was always a saying of if you don't work, or if you don't work, you don't eat. Right. Remember those days?
Yes.
There's always, one of the things I always go back to was, I love Kennedy's term of it's not, don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So it's always this sense of, I have to contribute something if I'm expecting something, and I think there is somewhat of a loss of that where people expect things and they're unsure if they want to contribute. Or they just don't contribute at all. It's an expectation of receiving things without contributing.
You hit something. Oh my God, you hit it.
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy, he was Democrat.
Yeah.
One of my favorite presidents.
Yeah.
I grew up, but I'm a Republican.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? It's crazy, right, to think that. John F. Kennedy. Oh my God. What you just said, served my country for 32 years. Right. From 17, right, until 2018, 32 years. Yeah. So I gave and contribute to this country, to our great nation.
Yeah.
So if people are saying, if I receive some kind of subsidy as a veteran, it's because I earned it. So the saying in the days, work hard and earn your keep. Do we have that mentality today?
We're starting to lose it, unfortunately.
That is correct. Yeah. I tell my kids, don't be a poser.
Right.
Right. Don't live beyond your means.
Right.
Because it's going to bite you.
Oh yeah. And obviously you grew up in Texas, and then came here and pretty much been here since. It sounds like.
Yes.
How have you seen politics, society in general, change here in California? Have you seen it change a lot, a little bit? Where would you say we're doing bad? Where would you say we're doing good, if anything?
Well, I said it earlier, right? In reference to, we are having issues. President Reagan was in California. We're California, red state. Factories were booming. California itself was producing and creating gross national product more than some other small countries, right? And then we lost him. And then we're voting for people that are, I would say, erasing the American dream in California by raising taxes, putting some red tape on housing, and then more red tape or extra taxes on business companies to subsidize their plans to sustain people that do not want to earn their keep.
Right. Yeah. You had brought in something about housing. I'm all for, and one thing I've realized, because I would consider myself an environmentalist. I love the environment. I want clean air, clean water, clean all that. A lot of Republicans are that way. A lot of Republicans are hunters. They love to camp. They love to go to the outdoors. They want all that to stay pristine. So, but for whatever reason, there seems to be a lot of red tape with developers who do want to build homes. And it seems like in California that we focus on the demand side of housing. We want to make it easier in a sense for people to buy homes, but we never attack the supply side, right? So, and that just seems to be a formula for outrageous housing prices where you only have so many homes for so many people, and we're not saying, hey, let's just build. I remember when George Bush used to say, drill, 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 right? We need a governor, in my opinion, that says build, build, build. Right? I mean, that's what we should. And hey, everything we got to do to build, that's what we should do. Do you feel very similar in that respect?
I mean, same thing you stated earlier about how do we do the homeless, right? But housing is expensive because of the taxes levy, the permits, right? The surveys, right? On top of that, I mean, the cities are getting their money, the federal state is getting their money, right? So to allow a certain company to build within this area, that's just classified as the wild national life of coyotes or the special plant that we don't have elsewhere. That, So my thing was, we have to somehow understand the limits and how do we rezone certain areas of the San Diego County. How do we reutilize, especially here in the South Bay, all the way down to San Isidro? How do we utilize certain areas that need to be remodeled per se, right? No longer adequate for living, and then take over and do some kind of waivers, or give some nonprofit organizations the green light to build, right? And then you would somehow see housing prices go down. Who's backing up those companies in housing to keep the inventory low, to keep prices up? It's going to go to the point where people cannot even buy no more. And I think we're reaching to that point. It's good. How is that bubble? When is that bubble going to burst? We don't know.
How is, I do have family in Chula Vista, so I go down there, quite a bit. But how do you feel? How is the homeless problem down there? Is there a big homeless problem, or is it only in certain pockets? Because the more east I go, I don't see that too much. Once you go up the 805, you go east, it's pretty rare. But if you go towards the beaches, that's where you kind of start to see it, at least in my opinion.
That's the same. How do they migrate to the warm area? How do they migrate? They migrate to an area where they have access to water, showers. The beaches have showers. They have toilets. So if I was a homeless person, I would try to live in the area of the beach because there's a public restroom and there's an outside shower where the cleaners, especially an IV, right? They have that availability. So I could see why, because you go like in Otay Ranch area, East Lake. Behind East Lake, there's a small camp behind the high school.
Oh, really?
You have homeless there.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So then you go down to the Imperial Beach, River Valley area, and then you go on Main Street between the cars in Chula Vista Main Street. There's homeless camps within that little valley.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So this is rampant. But I made a little statement for you.
Right? Absolutely.
So I said, how, I read your question, how can we combat homeless problem, right? Homeless problem. And I wanted to let you know this. Homeless is a complex issue that requires multifaceted approach. I mean, there's a lot of, like, LA's trying so hard, and it's rampant in Hollywood. It's crazy. California is trying to focus on preventing people from going homeless in the first place by implementing strategies like making small grants to people to help them avoid eviction. That's the wrong problem, the wrong solution. Avoid eviction. Right? Then you take away the rights of the homeowner. Then why, right? I don't want to buy a house to rent, right? No more, because look like the renter has more rights than the homeowner. Right? And then all these extra fees of you're gonna remodel your house, you have to put it elsewhere, right? So I think that's not a good way of doing things, right? It doesn't. Policy should be prioritized this year. That's right. Including a $10 million statewide housing bond to fund new affordable housing. We need $10 billion. I'm not sure it's going to get approved. We don't have much of that budget. To ending exclusionary zoning. So that's the area you're talking about. Exclusionary zoning. We got to stop that, right? To make it possible to build taller buildings. So members rezoning. With more apartments in the neighborhoods, providing billions to local governments to help fund specific solutions for homelessness, such as rental assistance, permanent housing, and services. What does that mean? More taxes. Right? It's hard. I mean, that's why people, that's why we're failing. Private organizations are typically better equipped than the government to make real differences in the lives of homeless because they tailor programs to meet specific needs of individual homeless and can adapt where government cannot. So, to the answer to the question, the civilian sector needs to address the homelessness, not the government, from my point of view.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about, so here's my obviously my big issue is one, a lot of the homeless people, there's actually room for there's a lot of homeless people that can go to a shelter and choose not to.
Right.
Because they prefer to live on the street for whatever reason.
Freedoms.
They can do their drugs. They can go hang out with their buddies, whatever it might be. So, and a lot of people don't like the idea of criminalizing it per se, but in my view, it is the only way to actually put hands on people to say you cannot camp in the sidewalk, because if you're camping here, guess where you're going to the bathroom? In the street, right? You're defecating and urinating in the street where my kids, my grandparents, my parents have to walk through, and you don't have a right to do that, So we have to remove you from there if that's all you have. Now, the second problem is, okay, if we put them in housing, there's kind of this there's a homeless industry per se, right? And they tend to want to buy land in very expensive areas, give people these nice apartments that they're probably going to mess up. But I've always thought of an idea of taking land outside of, East County, far out, dedicating where we're having almost somewhat of a tent city or cheap structure buildings where they can shower, they can go to the bathroom, they can have their own bed. It's warm, it's safe. You can have basic, cheap food made for everybody, and it can be done on a cheap basis. Because everybody seems to want to pump up the price so they can make more money for the not-for-profit sometimes, and I think we have to look at it as an economic solution too, because the more money we pump into homelessness means less money we're taking away from somewhere else, education, safety, so when I hear all these numbers being spent or talking about, hey, we got billions for homeless, well, we need if you're a politician, if you're a statesman or stateswoman, you have a fiduciary duty to be responsible for the taxpayer.
Yes.
So we should look for the most efficient way to spend this money and understand that, hey, we have compassion for these homeless people. A lot of them have drug problems, mental health issues, whatnot. Some of them maybe just don't want to work. And hey, we have a place for you. If you don't want to go voluntarily, we're going to force you to go because you can't be sleeping on these streets. And there seems to be a cheaper way we should be able to do this.
Yep. The first thing is you have to screen, like you said. You have to screen the homeless population.
Yeah.
And then that's how you start doing the segregation of these are they're not mentally ill. Then you got your mentally ill, and then you got your drug people, right?
Yeah.
They're stuck in drugs.
Yeah.
So that's where you have to, farm them out. Okay, the mental health, these go to state mental hospital.
Yeah.
Right. And the ones that are not mentally ill, how do we rehab them?
Right.
Right. So like you said, great idea. So others, like in Texas, they have for the veterans, they do have a sanctuary per se, is a tiny home sanctuary.
Oh, nice.
And one bedroom, one shower, everything slated for that, and it's for the veterans.
Yeah.
You got to show your DD 214.
Yeah.
I'm homeless, and can I be part of this camp?
Yeah.
And boom, you're in.
Nice.
So that's exactly right. So it takes a lot of money to do that. Chula Vista, Mr. Mike Diaz, former city councilman, had an idea of there's already a mental health on 3rd Avenue in Chula Vista. Right next to it, there was a small little building to make an emergency encampment or building, like I think it was 3 stories, with 12 rooms or something, and use as an emergency to remove and relocate homelessness, because you have to have a area if you remove this one person from the streets and as a homeless person, according to the law, you have to have a facility to provide them housing and to try to rehab them or something like that.
Yeah.
So That's the dilemma. Most cities don't have that facility.
We do need to work on that part. Now, I kind of want to go, kind of shift to crime a little bit for public safety. Do you feel like we're coming a little too soft on crime?
I'm gonna read this for you.
Okay.
This is what I wrote
Because
I was like in the zone. The debate, like you said, or the debate between tough or soft on crime is rhetorical and has no value in the criminal justice conversation for today. Right? So I'm kind of old school.
Sure.
Communities now are looking to be smart on crime, that is, to pursue policies that are thoughtful, fair, and effective. Right? So if you are willing to do the crime, you better be ready to do the time.
Yeah.
Many people believe that for the most part, judges are too soft, which is happening.
Yeah.
And when it comes to sentencing, the penalty should be much tougher.
Yeah.
Right? However, there are also a widespread view that criminals get off too lightly and sentences are not tough enough. So my thing, why would you allow this to happen in Houston? This person that killed a family, 5 kids or so, right? It came out in Houston this week. They caught the man, but we're gonna sentence him for life. But he ended the life of kids. So I'm like, eye for an eye.
Right.
Some countries will end your life by the way you ended the other person's life.
Yeah.
Some countries do that.
Yeah.
Some do hanging.
Yeah.
Some do some the rifle. Right. So my thing is, why should I pay tax money to a criminal that killed 5 kids? So my thing is, especially kids and women, he or she should not be allowed to live. That's my point of view.
Now,
and my stance.
Sure.
Crime.
So, but let's just say, so obviously that is an issue that is kind of, that's not an everyday common issue, right? Most of it is minor stuff, assaults, maybe a burglary, car, stealing a car, those type of things. How should we approach? I mean, is it something like, hey, we're too light on these?
It's not that we're too light. I think it's that the states can no longer afford to sustain and maintain jailhouses, penitentiaries.
Okay.
So that's the dilemma.
Okay.
That is the big dilemma right now. It's not that we're being too light. It's that it's overcrowded.
And we can't afford it.
Right. Exactly. Okay. So that's exactly what I'm trying to point out to me.
Yeah.
You might want the audience say, "Oh, he's a murderer."
Right.
But for me, if a person takes life, they should take his life as well.
Okay.
So that would cut down on paying, maintaining medical education reform and give them a chance.
Potentially. Yes. I mean, I here's where I would, my only issue, here's my issue with the death penalty is because we get it wrong sometimes. That's I agree with if it's 100%, and there's been plenty of times where a jury can convict somebody and it's not always the right one. That's my critique of it.
So I understand it because we had made mistakes in the past because we didn't have the technology of today. So now that we have the technology of today, I could say to you that our accuracy on penalizing and giving the guilty sentence on this one person,
right,
I would say more of a 85, 95%
more
accurate before than back in the 60s.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. There's more, especially with DNA evidence.
Yes.
I mean, it's more. I think it's more.
I would leverage technology to sustain that decision for me.
Right. Gotcha. And let's see here. What are some things that make San Diego and specifically Chula Vista a special place for you?
Oh, well, because I started my life, right?
Yeah.
It was a launching pad of changing my life, to today.
Yeah.
I mean, from coming from the projects to being educated, running for city council, lost by 6%. I mean, who thought a guy from the project would do that, right? And I want to let you know, I wanted to highlight, and I wrote it down here. San Diego is known to be for its beautiful beaches, of course, parks, year-round. The weather. Oh my God, that's why my wife does not want to leave. Let's go to San Antonio, right? I'm tired of the taxes in California. The Californication is going to happen, and oh my God, they're going to kick us out because of all these taxes and gas taxes.
Oh yeah.
It is also known to many attractions like the San Diego Zoo. It's every year try to go there. It was amazing. Even though it's amazing, great time to spend time in Balboa Park. And of course, Chula Vista. I mean, oh my God, Chula Vista is known for a scenic location between San Diego Bay and coastal mountain hills. It's also known for diverse culture. Right. I love it. It's very diverse, right? Many parks and beaches and vibrant and theater community, right? But also in Chula Vista, where I live at, a lot of veterans, a very military, family-centric community. So I live in District 3, and I ran against Ipadilla. And when I was running for city council, I did the hard work and knocked in every single door of District 3. And one thing I did notice that no one knew who was Steve Padilla of District 3. So that's one thing that for Chula Vista and San Diego, in order for us to make a difference in the future of our kids, right? Especially, we need to connect with our kids, right? In the political sense. And then give them our experiences and see if they would learn from us not to do the same mistakes. Because I tell you what now, my daughter is adulting. She's 26 years old, and she tells me, Dad, adulting is terrible. I am paying taxes out the nose. She is making some great money for a 26-year-old with a master's degree. And oh my God, and I laugh, and she looks at her paycheck. And what is this FICA? And what is this other tax? It's amazing. But yes, Chula Vista, San Diego, South Bay. Oh my God, it's paradise here. Beautiful. That's why my wife doesn't want to leave. I don't want to leave paradise either. But I'm telling you, the issues with California, state tax, we're voting for people that want to increase taxes. It's going to hurt everybody.
And one of the things that my mom, both my parents were very adamant about is when I turned 18, and still to this day, did you vote come election day? I always get that. You're voting, right? Make sure you vote. And I do now. I do the same thing. My oldest is 23, so always you're gonna go vote. Just make, whatever you want to vote for, go vote, do your thing, but make sure you vote. Make sure you're get a little educated on who you're gonna vote.
Get that message, guys.
That's right. Make sure you go vote.
You need to vote. Do your homework.
And
vote. You don't vote, more taxes.
That's right. Now, are you familiar with ranked choice voting by any chance?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
And I wrote my
thoughts. Okay, what are your thoughts on ranked choice voting?
Here, make sure I got it right. All right, make sure you correct me if I'm wrong.
No problem, we'll do.
Ranked choice voting is a voting system that allows voters to rank candidates in order of preference. Right? So that's, you have the right to vote. So you have to exercise your right to vote. You have the order of preference of who you're going to candidate, who do you want to run, right? It is used in some local elections in the United States. RCV encourages, the Republican Party encourages greater civility and less negative campaigning among candidates, right? So less campaigning, right? Because they're building some money. That's on the people that I run against. Oh my God, they had way over a good political fund per se compared to my little $13,000. As well as more direct outreach by candidates and voters. It's also incentivized candidates to engage in the positive campaign tactics, right? So publicity or public funded campaigns are campaigns that are funded by government rather than by private donors. So if you do that, right, like, hey, if I donate, what do you do for me? Right. That's the old school mentality, right? You owe me right? So that's kind of like it's good at things in reference to the ranked choice, which I think it's better. And then funding, should be governed as one level, same playing field, because right now, one candidate may have $10,000 versus a candidate that has $1 million. Who's going to win? Right. Yeah, exactly. They killed me. I'll tell you one thing. How I lost is by a mailer. Wow. That one mailer was $65,000. Yeah. And remind the audience again,
What was the percentage you lost by?
6%.
Wow.
And I did the old school knocking the
Yeah.
doors. I have those shoes.
Yeah.
I wore out the soles and I had a hole.
Oh my God.
Right. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Why did I run? It's because Chief Padilla was going to run unopposed. And I was retired.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Here's a chance for me to make a difference for our community. People know me for, being the co-founder of Honor Veterans Parade.
Yeah.
And, everybody's like, oh, we know you. Oh, good to know you.
Yeah.
Now, my name is out there. It's kind of crazy. You type my name up in the internet right now, and it tells you.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So whatever I tell everybody, it's so funny. What you see in the internet about me, it's true.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of ranked choice voting because same thing. When I ran for Congress, I didn't have a lot of money either.
Right.
And I think that, unfortunately, right now I think we're at a crossroads where we have two major political parties that, and many times, especially at the top level, are more concerned about power than they are about democracy, and in many times more concerned about their donors and the corporations that fund them than the people that they are supposed to represent.
Well, you give me goosebumps. Are you independent?
I am an independent.
Yeah, I give me goosebumps because I'm a Republican, but I'm in the middle. But oh my God, that's how I feel.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of the problem too is that now we're forced to do this. We're voting for the lesser of two evils, and people are voting for somebody they don't even like the guy, but they don't want the other person to win. And why I like ranked choice voting is it allows the voter to come out and say, you know what, I really like this person. Doesn't have a lot of money, but he's my first choice. And you know what? My second choice is this other guy, maybe the popular guy with all the mailers. Mm-hmm. And then I rank, and then you go down the list. But it gives for the opportunity for that person that really connects, that person who does the door knocking.
Yes.
To say, and it also says, hey, look, you might talk to somebody who's a diehard. You knock on their door, they're a diehard liberal. They're saying, you know what, I'm not going to vote for you, and say, hey, you know what, I know I'm not your first choice, but because you're a citizen of Chula Vista, I'll use Chula Vista example. I tell you what, your opinion matters to me. I do want to represent you, even though maybe we don't align. If I'm not your first, how about I be your second? And that will help you too, and that allows you to now represent not just people who align 100% with you, but also people who, hey, look, even though we don't agree on all the issues, I still want to try to make your life better, right? And that, to me, is always the main thing about being in politics and being, somebody running for political office is, hey, how can I make your life better? How can I empower you, right? Though that to me are two big things: how to make your life better and how do I empower you.
And what's the last one? There's one more that I have. Accountability.
Accountability. Yes.
That's the three pillars that I use in my campaign.
Wow. Perfect.
I'm like, oh my God, you got 2 pillars.
Well, hey, I think, and and there's a new thing coming out. I think it's it's for those watching. There's a thing called the democracy dollars, which is a very interesting thing where basically, when you run for political office, you can go 2 routes. So you can go the traditional, privately funded, right? And you can still go that route, or you can go the public funded route. And the way that works is the people who are registered to vote in your area, whatever district you're running in, what happens is they can, in essence, donate. It's publicly funded, so it's their $25, for example. They say, you know what, Henry, I'm going to give you my democracy dollars. You're my $25. So the person who's actually knocking on doors, you can say, hey, if you really like what I'm like, or you really like what I'm saying, I'm a public funded campaign. Can I get your support? It's not the $25 coming out necessarily from your pocket directly, but it's coming from a public fund. And if you choose to give it to me, great, it goes to me. If you choose not to pick anybody, that money stays in the general fund. And so it's a great way for, in my opinion, for the person who's not out campaigning to big corporations and big donors. They're actually talking to individual people to kind of build their way up to get some of that money to be more competitive. And it's also been shown that candidates have a higher rate of success when they tell people they're a public funded candidate.
Yes.
So it's a great, it's kind of a more of a newer idea, but I think it's an idea because of how donations are just, people are just buying elections now.
That would level the
playing field a lot.
It'd be a lot fairer because it was, against the monster
Mhm.
that I went against, right?
Yeah.
They did do nothing for our district, but all he did was increase public housing per se, right, in a area,
Mhm.
Which saturated District 3 with Section 8 housing,
Yeah.
which is a solution that we should
Yeah.
help with, right? I grew up in a Section 8 housing per
Yeah.
se, but it's hard.
Yeah, one great idea I think is a good idea. One of the problems with a lot of these affordable housing that I see, specifically like downtown, they're doing something over in Sports Arena,
Yes.
is it creates these two levels where, okay, I'm gonna just make up a number, say there's 500 units in this big project. They'll say, okay, well, 400 of them, you sell them however you want, but these 100 are going to be for, affordable housing, but really it's low income. And what that does is now it makes it, the prices are going to go up for the other 400 units. And what ends up happening is the middle class, they're the middle class who can't afford the new higher prices, but they don't qualify for
That's an oxymoron.
right. And so, and what I always thought is, hey, why don't we, so like City of San Diego, for example, rather than, if we're doing affordable housing, why don't we do it for, hey, set aside these 100, but for city employees. So for example, cops, teachers, city workers, because there's plenty of teachers out there. You take two young teachers, both making, let's say 50 grand each.
Oh my God.
Right? They really can't afford a home.
Yes.
So they need assistance. Why not create something for them? So it's an incentive to work for the city. So it's almost like a benefit. Hey, look, I work for the city. I'm a police officer. I'm making 90 grand. I want to live close to where I'm working, but I can't buy a house in here. It's too expensive. Well, hey, we got something for you. Because you're contributing, we're going to help you out.
I want to take, oh my God.
You
made a good point.
Yeah.
But why are we paying our city police, our first responders, firefighters, of course, teachers? Teachers are vital to our organization, our country, to our kids to be future leaders, to educate our leaders, right? But yet they can't afford to buy their own house.
Yeah.
I'm all about, hey, they should get paid $150,000 a year to qualify. Right. Teachers should be on the forefront in a top tier of level of education, because they're smart as hell, but yet we're paying them very little. Yeah. But we are paying the education leadership $200,000, but not the teacher. Right. It's kind of weird. That pay should go filter down to the teacher that's doing the work.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love my teachers, and I hate when we cut education. We shouldn't, because our country back in the 50s and 60s, right? We were the most, should I say, developing engineers, right? We were the top tier of education. Yeah. Now we getting our engineers from outside sourcing, India, China, right? Elsewhere than the country, we're not developing engineers. Right. STEM is important to our kids in the future. So that's one thing that we need to be aware of. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna, let me ask you what are your thoughts and feelings? I know that you said you would love to move to Texas, right? Or your wife is the one that's kind of holding you back? Yes.
Okay. We're both from Texas.
Okay.
Right. I could sustain myself to live here in California, but I'm tired. I'm not the only one in my block. We're tired of paying taxes. Yeah. I pay $10,000 in property tax. Right? Yeah. And then I'm a veteran. Yeah. In Texas, I won't have to pay property tax.
Oh, really?
No.
I didn't know that.
So that's for a veteran in Texas, 30 years. I mean, no property tax.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
That. Wow. Okay.
I ain't paying. I've been living in Chula Vista 20 years now.
Wow. That's amazing.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. That would make me want to maybe move.
Exactly right. People move to Texas,
Yeah.
Georgia, Arizona, maybe Florida, because they don't have to work.
Wow.
I'm working right now. I have my retirement.
Yeah.
I'm working just in case some of my family members need some emergency money. I could provide.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Henry, I really do appreciate you coming on this podcast. It's been a great conversation.
Yes.
I want to say thank you for your service too. Thank you so much for running, and hopefully I hope to see you out there one day. I mean, we need more people like you, in some capacity, whether it's, if you run for political office, if not, your service to your community in this country is greatly appreciated.
Before you close,
yes,
can I say this?
Absolutely.
Right. So I want to make sure everybody out there in the audience understands me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to do our homework in reference to picking the right person to run our city, our state, and our country. People are not doing their homework, right? So, like I said, we are paying taxes, and voting for people to want more taxes, right? So in reference to me, my platform I was running earlier, I'm more like independent, but I am a Republican.
Yeah.
Became a military Republican.
Yeah.
I run about honesty, being transparent, and holding people accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability today is hard to do, right? People don't do it because it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
And then you might offend somebody if you try to hold somebody accountable today. The workforce today needs to make sure they work and earn their keep.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be reaching out for begging for money and handouts.
Yeah.
Earn your keep. Do your homework.
Yeah.
I set the example for my kids. Got my associate degree, got my bachelor's degree, got my master's degree. My kids understand that. They know about the work ethics. My daughter has her master's degree.
Yeah.
So with that said, sir, if you see me in Chula Vista or San Diego, say hi to me. I am an open book. And I love San Diego. I love Chula Vista. I love this man. The independent. He gave me some goosebumps. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here. It's a pleasure.
Yes.
An honor to be here.
Awesome. Thank you again. And just want to say I appreciate everything you do. And, we'll see each other again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.